everyone, welcome to the Hey Hannah podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Maya Fields, but to my friends and those who know me well, I'm just Maya. I'm a higher education administrator, a mother, and a wife of 14 amazing years. But above all, I'm a Christ follower. This podcast is a special platform created to honor the memory of my beloved daughter, Hannah. It's here that I have the chance to have the conversations that I never got to have with her, to share the wisdom and love I wish I could have passed on. It's a reminder to cherish the precious moments we're given and a testament to the power of healing, hope, and personal growth. If you're someone who's seeking personal growth, inspiration, and practical advice to build a solid foundation for a successful and fulfilling life, this is the place for you. Join me as we honor Hannah's memory together. Laugh, cry, and learn. Get ready for a podcast that is so much more than you could ever imagine. The Hey Hannah podcast, healing hearts, one conversation at a time. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Hey Hannah podcast. So excited that you are able to join us here today. We have author, inventor, speaker, Jorge Gonzalez here with us today. He's going to tell us a little bit about his book, and he has a passion for motivating others. And I feel like we all need some motivation every now and then. So I'm excited to have him here today. Jorge, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm super excited to be here with you today.
Absolutely. So I had the opportunity to read a little bit about your background, which is definitely enticing. Can you tell us a little bit about your story and how you ended up getting to your book that you have out?
Well, I tell people I've had an adventurous, painful journey, right? But one of the parts where my life was completely changed when I was actually in a 20-year career of distribution, logistics, and warehouse management. I was a manager and in management, and I had a slip and fall, and I herniated 3 discs in my body. So it's one of my L5, one of my mid spine, and one of my neck. And it disabled me for about 3.5 years. It was extremely painful physically, and I was so heavily medicated that I fell into a depression.
Yeah.
I started seeing things, hearing things, suicidal thoughts, just the nightmare that we hear people talk about when they have some kind of substance problem, right? And for me, it
Yeah.
was medication to ease the pain.
Mm-hmm.
And it was I was there probably for about close to 2 years in that place because
Yeah.
I was disabled for 3.5 years. And then I was like, wait a minute, this is not me. This is not who I am. It felt so like this is not my reality. What's going on here?
Yeah.
And I kind of tapped into the memories again of my grandfather and his sacrifice that he did for my family, bring us here when he migrated from Mexico to United States. Remembering my father's conversations with him because he had passed away at a very young age of 53 years old, and how I wanted to honor their legacy and honor their name and whatnot. And then also remembering my daughter, that I was here to be a good father, a good role model, and stuff like that. So that really, I grabbed onto it for dear life, and to be able to get myself off the medication, look for natural things to really heal myself, like natural herbs and natural medicine, because I believed in natural alternative medicine. And that's what really allowed me to then have a clear set of mind and really start focusing like, okay, so how do I rebuild myself from here?
Yeah.
How do I reinvent myself? What am I going to do next? What are my next steps? Because clearly I can't go back in the same industry because I'm disabled. So what's my life going to look like? And then I heard this whisper that said real estate. And then I was like, okay, real estate, that's not far-fetched. I was doing kitchen and bathrooms and rehabs with my dad and my uncle since I was 14 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So just making that transition to real estate sounds like it makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's when I actually got my real estate license and actually became a real estate agent. And I closed 12 deals my first 16 months as a real estate agent, as a
Wow.
brand new real estate agent. And then I just kind of kept going from there. So that's really what the biggest reinventing of myself that I had to do because of that injury.
Oh man. Um, I'm interested because you mentioned like you were in such a dark place before you remembered like what your family before you had done, and that, invigorated you to move forward, which is that place to where you are now, motivating people. That is a long, gap from each
Yeah.
other. What would you say is the one thing that helped you to even get to the spot where you're thinking about, let me call on the strength of, my grandparents and parents before me? What helped you even get there?
Well, the reason, I mean, my grandfather's story and my father's legacy and his story and what he went through with alcoholism and substance abuse and whatnot, I've used that as the foundation of everything and anything that I built.
Ah,
And then
gotcha.
I stack it up with my daughter being in my life. She's 25 years old now, and back then, of course, she was like an early teenager when I got injured. But I knew that the way I was raising her, she really had me at such a high person in her life, a
Yeah,
mentor, a coach, her hero, right? And the director of her journey. And just holding on to those things and really focusing on that and really knowing that I was special and that I didn't know that my life had a great meaning and a great purpose, but it just really hadn't exposed itself yet. The way it is clear to me now after I've read my book, of course, and really holding on to that for dear life and really, I mean, I knew that that's not the place where I belonged at, and I knew
yeah,
that God didn't want me to be there. But now that I understand that I had to go through that and really stay there for a little while to really know what that was like. So when I talk to people right now on stage, on one-on-ones or whatnot, coaching, I can really tell them, like, it's not like I can just imagine what you're going through. No, no, no. I know what you're going through because I've
yeah,
been there too. So I'm not just talking about like a book of memorization or hypotheticals. I'm actually talking. No, no, no. I was there too.
yeah.
And if I believe that I got myself out of because I believe I was special and I had a calling over my life, that means you must have one too. Let's talk about that. Let's look at that and see what exposes itself in that way, in that manner.
There's so much about what you said that I love. One, that you took one of the darkest periods of your life and now you are using that to bless other people. And there's so much power in what you said as well about being able to connect with someone about where they are in their lives because you've actually been there yourself. Like, it gives you another level of influence to be able to talk about those things, because it's like, I'm not just telling you about or motivating you from a place of theory or things that I've read about. Like, this is my lived experience, and I'm a living
Mhm.
example of, if I can, reinvent myself, then it's possible for you to do the same. So it's very important that um you are doing the work that you're doing, because you have that experience to be able to speak in that particular space. So thank you for doing that. So, the book, Answer the Call: Life Lessons from Family Origins through Invention and Struggle. Tell us a little bit about the book. If we were to pick it up today, what would we find in the text? And what's the number one thing that you hope we would get out of it?
The book talks about kind of being a rounded individual,
Yeah,
right? It talks about foundation. It talks about influence, who influences us, the journey, the process, the pain, the betrayals, because of course we go through those as well, and faith and success and what that looks like. And success is not just about monetary gain. It's success is, are you doing what you believe you're being called to do,
yeah,
right? And that's what really success is. And it just happens to be that we get paid for really being a part of that journey because that's what we were meant to do. That's what we're good at. It's what we're it's our gift, it's our talent, right? Now my book is called Answer the Call. And like you said earlier, I am also an inventor. So I was gonna call my book American Inventor, right? But the day I was on the phone with my publishing company, I heard this whisper, and that whisper said, "Answer the call." And then it said it again, "Answer the call." And then I said it out loud. And my publishing company said, "George, what is that?" That's the name of the book. Like, where did you get that from? It was just whispered to me. And they're like, George, we're scrapping American Inventor and we're going with Answer the Call. A few weeks after that, the meaning of After the Call came to me. And Answer the Call means following your gifts, your talents, and pursuing your life purpose. That's what Answer the Call means.
Mm,
So
that's powerful.
when that came through to me, I was like, that's God's message to the world. Because I've always believed that I was special, and I've
Yeah.
always believed that I had a gift and a talent and a life's purpose, but I just didn't know what it was like because I hadn't lived life yet, right? But now, since I wrote the book, and it's almost like I was giving access to connect my life from that point of when I wrote the book all the way down to my early, young years, as a child, when everything started making sense, that it was the journey, it
Yeah.
was the process that I had to go through to really mold me into the individual that I was supposed to become, to be able to write that book, publish the book, and get in front of people to motivate and inspire other people. It all started to make sense at that particular time.
That is so powerful when you explain, you're just reading the title, but your explanation of it completely makes sense. It's like putting all the pieces of the puzzle together. And I'm just curious. I worked in career advising for a while, and I remember during my time in career advising, I was just kind of surprised to run into so many people who felt like they had no call or purpose or gifting. Is that something that you've ran into in your space as well? And how do you even get someone to the realization that, you do have purpose, you do have a call to answer yourself before you can even motivate them to answer it?
I've encountered this not only as a published author and a speaker, but I've encountered this my entire life where people, like you said, they thought that they don't have a gift or talent and they don't have, you know, a reason to live, that for that matter. And I was always the guy and the friend and whatnot that tell people, no, 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 hold on a second. You are special. There's a reason why you're still alive, but I can't tell you what that is because that's internal.
Yeah.
You have to know that. And it's going to expose itself to you. Now, I can see from the outside looking in, and I can tell you the things that I see that you're good at, and what I believe it could be, but you are the one that needs to be answering to that, not me. I can't tell you this is what you're supposed to do because that's not my place. That's for you to decide, am I going to be obedient to what this is, that I know that this is my calling because I am really good at this, and you cannot discard it and say, no, that's just, it's just whatever. No, it's not whatever,
Yeah.
because we cannot play basketball, tennis, or draw or sing. We're not all comedians. Those are gifts. Those are talents. And the reason I say these things is because those are the things that makes us feel good when we watch these people doing it,
Yeah.
right? So therefore, that gift was given to them to entertain us. So that only means that we must have one too. That it maybe is not being a star athlete or something, but maybe it's a poet writing music, a drawing or whatnot. Maybe we're supposed to make somebody smile and laugh through other ways, or motivate them and really nurture them in other ways. But only you can answer that. But you have to be obedient of how that message is coming through. It can be through like visions, right? Because I get those from time to time. Dreams, I get those from time to time. Even the knowing. This is what's been my strong suit my entire life, is that I know because I know. I don't know why I know. I just know it.
Yeah.
I know that this is who I am, and I know that I'm supposed to become somebody great. I know that, like I know myself, and sometimes people actually hear it by the spoken word. So these are several different ways that these messages can come in where, wait a minute, I was just told this is the route I'm supposed to take.
Yeah.
But think again that you have free will. You have the will to either respond to it or discard it. If you answer to it, you're going to find peace and fulfillment. If you discard it, chances are you're going to find a lot of painful events in your life because it's trying to push you in the direction that you're meant to be at. Similar when you punch in an address on a map on your phone,
Mm-hmm.
and it's giving you directions, turn left, and then it tells you again, turn left because you missed it. And then it's going to take you the long way through a dangerous neighborhood, through the mountains, to a hillside, through a scary area that you were like, wait a minute, why am I here? That's because you didn't listen two turns back then.
Still trying to reroute you.
Exactly. But at the end of the journey, you're gonna be at your designation zone and address. So that's what I like to share so that people get a visual of what this journey looks like. Because, and the reason I say it that way is because I've been guilty of, huh, maybe I'm not supposed to go that way when I was supposed to turn that way.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking in direction, I'm talking in life. And this is why I went through all the things that I went through, because I wasn't obedient all the time until I realized, wait a minute, every time I discard something, like I think I'm making it up, I'm not making it up. It's a message. It's almost like I get hit by life. God doesn't punish me, but I get hit by life because that's not the place where I was supposed to go at. And I went through the danger zone is what I went through, is what I now connected to. And now when I say things like this, I'm not pushing religion on anybody. It's just I want people to understand exactly how I experienced it and give people the best representation of what that looked like for me and how potentially they can either accept what's being told to them, because we do have free will.
Absolutely. And I make no secret of it. I'm a woman of faith, so I completely understand and am in agreement with what you're saying. And I also, as I'm listening to you, it reminds me of the importance of being surrounded by, well, the Bible says wise, godly counsel, being surrounded by good people. I think now it's become even, popular and in somewhat of an extent celebrated how quickly we can cut people down or, to get a quick laugh. But you said something very important. You can tell someone, speak life into them essentially and tell them what they're good at, but they have to figure that out for themselves. And a lot of times people just need someone to believe that they're good at anything, so they can get that motivation to start, working on themselves to figure out what it is. So what a gift you are to those that are surrounding you. And if anyone listening feels like, hey, this is me, it's so important to surround yourself with good people who are going to pour positively into you. Makes a difference.
Influence in my book, because
Yeah.
who is around you and who guides you is extremely important. My father was an alcoholic, and I had an uncle that was only 12 years older than I was, which was one of my mom's younger brothers. He had to step in my teenage years, those years that you get lost.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I was still fighting that, he was still there to be supportive, and his energy level and his command to me, because we are very like-minded, I listened to him because I saw an older version of me in my uncle, just like he saw a younger version of him in me. So
Yeah.
that was like the perfect match that my mom did to really take care of me and protect me, really guide me through those early teenage years where I potentially could have, lost my life or ended up in prison like a lot of
Yeah.
our people do.
Understandable. Well, thankfully you had him there. And I'm sure that was a blessing for you. I'm curious as a motivator. Many people struggle with, you leave the motivational speech, you leave the conference, you finish the self help book, and you are on the mountaintop. But then, a lot of people can quickly go into the valley. So, a lot of people are just struggling a lot of times with staying motivated, consistently motivated, especially when things get hard. Challenging times do exist. I don't discount that at all. But how do you help people overcome obstacles and keep moving forward and just maintain that motivation when George isn't there to motivate them anymore?
I think by now you have already caught on to my energy level, right? So I am a very direct individual. And I tell people motivation and inspiration, it doesn't last long. You know, you have to be committed to what you said you were going to do.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Because if you decide or you're going to say you're going to do something and you don't do it, there's consequences to that because you've already accepted and said out loud, this is what I want to do and this is what I want to become. And now if your purpose and your gift, your talent exposes itself to you, and now it's in front of you, and you are disobedient to that, you will pay a price for that because you can no longer say, "Well, I didn't know." Yes, you did. So now it's gonna say, "Well, I was scared." It's like you were scared of what?
Yeah.
I gave you your gift. I gave you your talent. I gave you the ability to recognize your life purpose, and you were scared of what? So if I gave you this and you're not obedient to it, what did you think was going to happen next after that?
Yeah.
It's like they tell you, don't go into that burning building. They just told you the building is on fire. Why would you go in there? So this is the same thing. You're upset, you're sad, and you feel miserable through this life that you have, through this 9 to 5, because you hate your job, da 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 da. And yet the best things of you are exposing themselves to give, telling your life's purpose, and you said no to it.
Yeah.
So not only is it going to be more painful, the regret you're going to feel is going to be miserable, even at escalated levels of it. So when I talk to people like that, I was like, wait a minute, I didn't think about it that way. Well, imagine this. Imagine you told your child, don't do this because it's dangerous over there. But you know what? Go here because it's safer over there, and this is where you belong at. Do you want her to go to the danger zone, or do you want them to go to the place where you know that their gift, their talent, and their life's purpose is going to be accepted and she's going to be amongst her people? Because this is exactly where you're standing now.
Yeah.
So if you inspire to have children one day, if you don't have them now, you either going to be their influence on them positively, or you're going to be the influence of their demise. You have to make a decision now. And it's not me using a scare tactic, but it's me using the reality of what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
Because this is what life is. I don't want to go to danger areas. So I pay attention. I scan areas all the time where I go somewhere. If I get a bad feeling and a bad vibe and I see something, I exit myself out of it because I don't belong there.
Yeah.
Because God doesn't want me there. God wants me where I can help people, inspire people, motivate people, and expose and trigger people to find their calling and their gifts and their talents. That's where he wants me to be at, not me fighting with people.
Absolutely. Oh man. You said so many good things there, and you mentioned making a decision that you are going to show up or do whatever it is that you said you would do. And I guess that's even in response to a lot of times you'll hear people say, well, I don't feel like it, or I'm tired, or I can't do this. But even in spite of your feelings, when you make your decision, keep your promise to yourself, essentially, to, make sure that you're still accomplishing the things that you said you would.
I really go beyond keeping a promise to yourself. I said, look, people say your reason why. I say this. What does your foundation look like? Why do you want to become greater than yourself right now? Why?
Yeah.
Well, I want to honor my grandfather. Okay, that's solid. That's the first of the foundation layers. What else? Well, I want to honor the life of my father and his decision making that he did with substance abuse and really want to help people so they don't suffer the same consequence. Okay, that's layer number 2. Okay, anything else? Yes, I want to be a good influence to my child because she looks up to me. I'm her hero, and I want to be a good influence. Okay, that's 3 layers of a foundation.
Mm-hmm.
So let me tell you this right now. If you quit, you're not quitting on yourself, you're quitting on your grandfather, you're quitting on your father, and you're quitting on your daughter.
Well, that's deep. They'll
I
slap
am
you right in
not
the face.
I am not gonna quit on my grandfather, my
Yeah.
father, or my daughter. I will not do that to them because I know how painful that's going to be. I
Yeah.
mean, I can give up on myself all day long, but once I have that foundation, there is no more any excuses anymore
Mm.
because I will honor their legacies and I will honor my father's decision in that story, and I'm gonna make sure that his he lives through me sharing that story because he wants me to help other people and save other people with his story. That's what I'm doing for him. And then also, what what character is my daughter going to become in her life? Is she going to hurt people? Is she going to inspire people and motivate people? Is she going to change lives? And that's going to be directly correlated to how I raise her and how I what's the word here again what I expose her to as far as wait a minute, my father is an amazing influence on my life.
Mm-hmm.
I can see myself doing that too because I have a pure heart, I have a good heart, and I want to help the world just like my daddy did. So that's an honorable thing to have, is
Yeah.
that legacy.
I've never heard it connected that way. You know what you were saying, like, you hear follow your why, but when you think about, why are you doing this and you're connecting it to the people who have worked so hard before you, it makes it a lot harder, like you said, to just give up on them and quit on them. So that's definitely a unique perspective. I haven't heard that before. So thank you for sharing that.
I had always heard the reason why for like the last 25 years. A year and 3 months ago, I went through the worst spiritual attack of my life. I felt like my soul and my spirit were yanked out of my body. The only thing that I could think about in that moment was get on my knees, pray, and cry. And then it came over me, read your Bible. And it said, don't read the Old Testament, read the New Testament. So I did that because, and the reason that came through is because I've had it for 15, 20 years and never read my Bible and I've always had strong faith and I always believe in
Yeah.
God and I believe in I've always have, but I've always had this knowing, but for some reason I couldn't read the Bible. It was just too
Yeah.
complicated for me. It's almost like there was a wall there for me.
Mm-hmm.
But when I read it, I realized how strong family connection is in the Bible, which is why there's a family tree there. So when I read that, it penetrated my soul, my heart. I said, wait a minute, my foundation is my family,
Amen.
not a reason why. It's my foundation, and I'm going to
Yeah.
hold on to that. And everybody I speak to, I will speak of my foundation, not my reason why. It's my foundation and the lineage that I want to impact going forward, similar to the Bible because it's biblical. And again, this is not me pushing religion on anybody. This is just me sharing what's important for me and what I hold as my foundation and what it means to me.
Oh, absolutely. Man, I love that. I love it. I love it. And you're absolutely right. I think a lot of times you'll hear when people are reading the Bible, they get to the lineage like this one was the son of this one was the son of this one, and just skip through the pages, kind of like the
Yeah.
map. But there's purpose behind it,
Mm-hmm.
as you mentioned. I'm laughing, but seriously, there's a purpose behind it. You're talking about the foundation, you're talking about the lineage, and there's deeper reasons to why it's there, which take longer to go into.
Mm-hmm.
But there is purpose there, and that's the importance. And I love that the Bible is the living word. It gives you, George, what you need at that particular moment. Now, I may read the text and I'm not going to pull that same exact thing out because that's not what I need at that moment,
Correct.
but it's living and it's always going to give the reader what they need right then and keep them moving forward. So I absolutely love that. I love to hear stories like that. It just, it just really fuels me and it's exciting to hear. The first of the year, It's coming up. New Year's, people always are doing the goal setting, the resolutions and all that kind of good stuff. And, goal setting is oftentimes tied to motivation. So I'll ask you, how do you guide people into identifying and setting meaningful personal goals and professional goals that you're not just going to chunk away in a week or two?
I I don't do New Year's resolutions.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a plan and I do have goals, but my goals go beyond just 1 year, right? When I wrote my book, I wanted to reach 3 to 5 generations of my lineage. That's the reason why I wrote the book. And I wasn't even going to publish the book. But my publishing company says, George, these stories in your book are they're just too valuable just to shelf and just give to your lineage. I mean, they're
Yeah.
honorable for your family, yes, but they can do a lot bigger also impact in the world, especially because we're going through COVID, because obviously it was through COVID to 2021. And you can change a lot of lives through what you talk about here. The story of your grandfather, the story of your father's alcoholism and that substance abuse, and the story of just the way you speak about your daughter and the way you raised her and her successes leading up to this point of her life. These are conversations that a lot of people don't tend to have, but yet you chose to write about them. So I've always planned, like I said, 3 to 5 generations, in the future with things that I do, 5 to 10, 20 years in the future. But the thing about planning for the future is you tend to always catch up to it,
Mm.
right? So I've done things like 25 years ago when I first learned about my father's, uh, no, 25 years ago, yeah, 20 some years ago when I first learned that my father had 6 months to live, I knew that I wanted to talk about that journey, that story
Yeah.
of the substance abuse and the consequences of family losing their loved one. But the book wasn't written until 2021, 20 years later. When I first learned about the story of my grandfather, that I was an early teenager, but I knew that I've always wanted to share that story,
Yeah.
and it didn't happen until 2021, which was, I don't know, 35 years later. So it's almost like I gotta do this, and I'm almost like I'm planting a seed in the future, and sooner or later, the picking up the pieces, and then things are gonna start connecting to each other. So for the future now, I want to change 1 billion lives is what I want to do with this message of Answer the Call, because that's what I'm being called to do. Through that process, I'm going to be going a lot more podcasts, a lot more interviews, a lot more stages, a lot more social media content, just scaling things up, being more aggressive on all platforms and all ways of doing this to be able to reach eventually the level of reach that I want to reach. And meeting people like yourself that are inviting me on your podcast and stuff like that is also stacking up the numbers of people that I'm reaching, because I am meant to reach a certain amount of individuals. Those certain individuals are also assigned to a group of individuals. So directly or indirectly, I will reach 1 billion people in my lifetime or after my lifetime. And that's going to be the legacy that we're going to live, is that really sharing that message that was once whispered to me of Answer the Call.
We're in the same lanes, George. You're speaking my language. I completely agree with that. And it's interesting that you said around the time you're writing the book and COVID and everything shortly on that span. With podcasting, I've had the opportunity to meet so many different people and do so many different interviews. And one thing that I noticed that's consistent is so many of the biggest blessings have been birthed through such a scary time period. I can't tell you how many people that that I've met and what they are bringing forth now was birthed during that period. So it's just like it's amazing to be able to see that. And, you mentioned all the people that you want to touch and, getting out there, doing the podcast, doing the speaking engagements. And one of the individuals that I listen to a lot, he mentions, finding your gift, sharpening your skills and all that kind of stuff. But on the other end of that, making yourself findable. So,
Yeah.
that's another thing is I've been meeting so many amazing people. And as I, typically do the podcast, I'm recommending these resources that, just books that I've read. I love to do a ton of reading, but it's people who don't need me to mention that they have a book. But I've been meeting so many wonderful people with so much talent. And it's just a matter of individuals hearing about them and the amazing message and the gift that they have to share with the world. So I'm thankful that you were able to come on this platform and your voice is able to get out there even more because there are so many gifted people out here in the world doing amazing things, and I'm just glad I get to be a part of it. So thank you
I
for
have
being
this
here.
saying that says, you could be the best thing since sliced bread, but if no one knows about you, it doesn't even matter.
Right.
People need to know your story. People need to know about your product and they need to know about your service if you are the best in the game. Because a lot of us are the best in the game. We have the best stories to share. We have the best podcast. We have the best guests. We have the best product. We have the best service. But like you said, if people can't find us, we cannot help the people that we know that we are the best for them unless they
Yeah,
find us. So we have to do our part and put ourselves out there, as embarrassing as sometimes might be, and as humiliating as sometimes might be, or we may feel, but that is what we're supposed to do. So they can find us, especially
absolutely.
us good hearted and sincere individuals, especially.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You shared so much good information today. I'll ask you a couple more questions just so we can wind it up. For individuals listening, and you talked about, finding your calling, finding your gift. What is, you know, I'd say one or two things that they can do today or a resource that they can use to help them discover what their gift or their talent is.
Look, social media is free, YouTube is free. Following me on social media, following you on social media, that's free. When we put content as good as this, people should listen
Yeah.
because we are trying to shorten the learning curve of a lot of things, like all the things that I've just shared with you with all the audience, right? There is no reason why a lot of us should experience similar things if somebody else already experienced them for us. Like
Absolutely.
myself, I read a lot of books, I read a lot of biographies, I read a lot of things where I want to know what people went through that build them into this character that who they've become now. Now, one book that really inspired, one biography that really inspired me is the Walt Disney biography. When I read the story about Walt Disney, I found out that he filed bankruptcy 4 times before Disneyland was even created. But then I realized that Walt Disney has the same birthday as I do.
Oh, wow.
We celebrate the same birthday, December 5th, which is in 4 days now, right? And just learning that and having similarities to it and say, wait a minute, I can see myself being a grand individual building something. Of course, I'm not going to build the next Disneyland, or I might, I don't know. But I know that I'm meant for something great. And if this individual went through all these things here, and not only that, he was born on my birthday. It's almost like we're twins,
Yeah.
which means I'm supposed to be somebody great too, right? So just finding those similarities and finding people that are almost similar to you and really people that you inspire to be like them or the same lifestyle or just the same way of giving and stuff like that. And finding out, okay, so how do they find their gift? How do they know that that was what they were supposed to do? How do they know that this was their talent? And just finding and digging deeper, and then having faith in something bigger than ourselves, because that is
Yeah.
extremely important. Now, when I started my personal development journey, people weren't talking about faith and what they believed in.
Mhm.
Now it seems like they're talking more about their faith now.
Mhm.
And now when you listen to that, we come to an understanding that they wouldn't have succeeded if it wasn't for their faith,
Yeah.
because they believed so much that their next step was going to be a calculated step, and even though they couldn't see what's ahead of them, they knew it was going to be okay. And that's faith. That's having faith.
Yeah.
Being homeless and living in a car or living in a family member's couch and still going after what you believe is your purpose, that is faith.
Yeah.
That is believing in something you cannot see. So
Absolutely.
that's what people should really, look into. And these are all free resources on YouTube, Instagram, and all the other social media platforms. But follow positive individuals and discard anything that's negative. Delete
Mm-hmm.
people, unfollow people, and sometimes, sadly to say, sometimes it's family members and friends. Love them from a distance.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean we don't love them, but we're gonna love them from a distance, and
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna wish them well. We're gonna pray for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, for anyone who's listening and they want to first purchase Answer the Call, where can they get that book? And if they want to hear more from you so they can answer their call, how do they find you?
Well, as a gift to all the listeners and all your followers, if you follow me on my social media platforms, I'm more active on Instagram. You can go to my bio and you can actually download a free copy of my book from Kindle
Oh,
Unlimited, right?
awesome.
And then there's an online version, and then there's a paperback version for those of you that want the paperback version. Now, if you follow me on Instagram, my social media platforms, you will see that I post a lot of content. If any time in the future you have any questions of anything, send me a DM, and I'll be more than happy to help you.
Wonderful. And what is your Instagram handle?
My Instagram handle is George, Jorge underscore V as in Victor, underscore Gonzalez. And it'll be the same in all my social media platforms.
Wonderful. And as always, Hannah's Hive, if you don't have a pen, I put everything in the notes so you can just click down below in the comments and you can directly connect with George. Do you have any one-on-one offerings, George, that you do for individuals? Can they connect with you if they want to do like some personal sessions for growth at all?
Yes, absolutely. I definitely do. And my goal is to, by the end of the sessions that we do, is that you already know what your gift, your talent, and your life's purpose is. That is the goal of the sessions.
Oh, that is amazing. Definitely worth its weight in gold for
Yeah.
sure. Well, thank you so much, George, for being here. It was absolutely a pleasure to have you. We end every episode with the same question. And so I will ask you, what is the best piece of advice you have ever received, or what is a piece of encouragement you would give to someone you deeply care about?
I want to say that the best advice that I was ever given was that I was destined for something great. They saw something within me. And I would tell the audience that I believe you are special, and God gave us all a gift, a talent, and a life's purpose. And it's our responsibility and our duty to follow those and answer the calling on our life.
Amen. What a positive note to end on. Wonderful. George, thank you so much again for being here. It was great to
Thank you.
have you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Hannah's Hive, thank you again for listening in. I know you were encouraged by this episode. Don't forget to connect with George. Get your copy of that book. I will be reading the book because I know we're going to find some good stuff in there. Again, thank y'all for tuning in. And until next time, take care.
Then that's it. I'm out of here.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Hey Hannah podcast. We hope that you found inspiration, insight, and encouragement in our conversation today. If you enjoyed this episode and want to stay connected with us, be sure to like, subscribe, and review the Hey Hannah podcast. Your feedback helps us reach more people and spread our message of love and wisdom. You can also follow us on social media at Hey Hannah Podcast. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok to stay updated on all the latest episodes, behind the scenes exclusives, and engaging content. And for those of you who prefer the visual experience, catch the video versions of our podcast on our YouTube channel. Just search Hey Hannah Podcast and hit that subscribe button to never miss an episode. For even more Hey Hannah goodness, visit our website at www.heyhannahpodcast.com. There you'll find updates, bonus content, and join a community that embraces you with open arms. Your continued support truly means the world to us. Together, let's spread love, share wisdom, and honor every precious moment. Because here at Hey Hannah, we believe that life is meant to be lived well. Remember, a new episode of the Hey Hannah podcast is released every Wednesday, so mark your calendars and be sure to tune in. Thank you again for being a part of Hannah's Hive. Until next time, take care.
Entertainment.